Hello and welcome to Pro-Life Primetime News. Today is Friday, June 7th. I'm Leslie Palma. The Democrats in Congress expanded their focus on abortion this week by adding two new causes, contraception and in vitro fertilization. The Right to Contraception Act and Right to IVF Act have no chance of passing either the House or Senate, but Democrats don't care about that. They're purely political ploys, an attempt to paint Republicans as extremists. I'll have clips from a Senate hearing. As primary season comes to a close, former President Donald Trump and incumbent Joe Biden easily won their primaries in several states on Tuesday. Crucial races in the U.S. Senate also came into clearer focus in Montana and New Jersey. I'll have that and more in political news in a nutshell. As the nation awaits a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court that could impact the way the deadly abortion drug mifepristone is prescribed and distributed, a federal judge permanently blocked some of the laws North Carolina enacted to regulate chemical abortion. Also, in Abortion in the News, I'll tell you why Southwest Airlines is back in court. The Public Interest Legal Foundation investigated voter rolls in Nevada, a state that mails a ballot to every registered voter in the state. Many of those ballots are set to be sent to casinos, police stations, vacant lots, bars, and a strip club. I'll show an eye-opening video on this very troubling trend. Please stay tuned. The Democrats and their stenographers in the mainstream media were all about contraception this week. In the House on Tuesday, Democrats said they will try to force a vote on the Right to Contraception Act. They know the effort will fail in the Republican-dominated chamber, but what they hope is to portray pro-lifers as willing to outlaw the birth control pill and other contraceptives. Senate Democrats also were hoping to force a vote on a similar bill, again with the full knowledge that it cannot pass. A vote on Wednesday that would have advanced the bill failed to receive the 60 votes needed. Also this week, the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee convened a public hearing at which the subject of contraception loomed large. At the hearing, Washington Senator Patty Murray, an abortion enthusiast, tried to pin down a pro-life advocate on her opinion of IUDs and the so-called morning after pill Plan B. Here's Senator Murray questioning Dr. Christina Francis, president of the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs.
Dr. Francis, I have a question for you, and I want a simple yes or no. Do you believe that women should have access to Plan B? Yes or no?
I believe that women deserve to have accurate information about their health care.
I'm not asking you that question. Do you believe that women should have access to Plan B?
I think that women should be given any medication under the supervision of a physician.
So you support access to Plan B?
I support women having access to accurate information and care from a physician.
Do you believe that women should have access to medication abortion? Just yes or no?
Chemical abortion are dangerous,
yes no?
high-risk drugs.
So no. Do you believe women should have access to IUDs? Yes or no?
I believe that, again, women should receive comprehensive health care under the direction of a physician.
Access to IUDs? Do you believe women should have access to IUDs? Yes or no?
I believe that women should have access to OBGYN physicians who can counsel them about all of their options.
Take that as a no. And I want to ask you for the record today, do you think that IUDs and emergency contraceptives are abortifacients? Yes or no?
So if you look at the package inserts for such as the copper IUD, it actually clearly states that they do prevent implantation even if fertilization has occurred, which would classify that as an abortifacient, yes,
do you believe
per
that?
the package insert.
On Wednesday, the Washington Post covered the contraception issue by asserting that pro-lifers are just plain wrong that IUDs and emergency contraception, and even the pill, can end a pregnancy in its earlier stages. Never does the lengthy story mention, nor is it brought to light in the Senate hearing, that Republicans and Democrats differ on the very fundamental question of when life begins. Until 1965, it was understood that life begins at fertilization. But in an effort to make the recently approved birth control pill more palatable to the public, the American College of OBGYNs that year decided that life does not begin until the embryo is implanted in a mother's uterus, which occurs 5 to 7 days after fertilization. For pro-lifers, then, anything that prevents implantation causes an abortion. IUDs, emergency contraception, and birth control pills all work in part to prevent implantation. This Democrat focus on contraception is a political ploy meant to paint Republicans as extremists determined to keep American women barefoot and pregnant, and to take the focus off the Democrats' radical position that abortion should be legal and taxpayer-funded through all 9 months of pregnancy. But at Tuesday's Senate hearing, Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana made sure to pin the extremist label on the Democrats.
Thank you, Senator Murray. So let's table set. It's an election year in which a Democratic incumbent president is running behind. So a decision has been made to raise abortion to a high profile, to change the setting, to invite a lot of folks to put us on TV. It's partisan politics being played out in a committee hearing. But let me point out as well It's not entirely partisan. Louisiana's pro-life law was written by a female Democratic state senator and written and signed into law by a Democratic governor, and that female Democratic state senator was reelected with wide margins. So there is a breadth across the political spectrum of people who have a different way of framing this. My Democratic colleagues want you to think that Republicans believe terrible things. They'll attempt to normalize a decision to abort a child. But a Republican would say that you can't normalize a procedure, at least this Republican, in which the intent is to end a life. Don't be misled. This is a life. This is a life. Does anyone say that that child is not a life? How could you not? I'm a doctor. I see that you have to take care of that mama. You have to take care of that mama. But you have to recognize that there is another life there as well. This is not just a collection of cells. This is a child that, if delivered, will live. And maybe this one too, and that one as well. So let's have a national dialogue. Let's actually explore this as opposed to exploit it for political advantage. In medical school, I was taught to care for every patient who walks in the door and to recognize that when a woman is pregnant, there are two patients there. And the second that baby gets air, it doesn't matter how small and how vulnerable, how unsustainable, how weak. The doctors, the nurses, the institution does everything they can to save their life. And by golly, don't you want them to do that? Don't you want the people who are entrusted with the health care to have that ethic? I believe that the responsibility to protect and save the child shouldn't be determined by the arbitrary difference of being inside or outside the womb. I am unapologetically pro-life. Scientifically and morally, there's no difference in the value of a child whether she is in her mother's arms or whether she is in her mother's womb. The science is clear. This is just not a clump of cells. And this is a difficult poster to look at. I can tell you it's difficult. The reason it's difficult is because you recognize that by their policies, it should be legal to abort that child. It is difficult, but let's frame it for what it is. How can we dehumanize this? And yet this is what it's an attempt to do. At what point do my Democratic colleagues believe that a child deserves to live?
Also this week, 3 Senate Democrats introduced the Right to IVF Act to force private health insurance plans to cover assisted reproductive treatments such as in vitro fertilization, egg freezing, and gestational surrogacy. It also stands little chance of passing. As primary season comes to a close, former President Donald Trump and incumbent Joe Biden easily won their primaries in several states on Tuesday. Crucial races in the U.S. Senate also were highlights in 2 states. In Montana, where Democrat incumbent Senator Jon Tester is considered vulnerable, former Navy SEAL Tim Sheehy won the Republican nomination to attempt to flip the seat. Sheehy, who is endorsed by Trump and national Republican leaders, calls himself proudly pro-life and believes regulation of abortion should be left to the states. Abortion in Montana is legal until viability. In New Jersey, U.S. Representative Andy Kim won the Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate seat held by Robert Menendez, who is currently on trial on charges of acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. Menendez opted not to run in the primary, but on Monday filed paperwork to run as an independent. Republican businessman Curtis Bashaw will run against Kim and Menendez. The New Jersey ballot will feature 2 candidates named Robert Menendez. The senator's son fought off 2 Democrat challengers for the right to seek re-election to the U.S. House seat once held by his father. Republican Andy Valdez ran uncontested. Races for the U.S. House also firmed up after primary votes in Iowa and New Mexico. The American Civil Liberties Union, the organization behind many of the lawsuits seeking to overturn pro-life laws, has announced it will spend $25 million this election cycle to help pro-abortion incumbents and challengers get elected. It's the most the organization has ever spent on elections. According to NBC News, the group will give money to support ballot initiatives in several states that seek to invent a right to abortion in state constitutions, and will focus on the U.S. Senate race in Wisconsin and state Supreme Court races in Arizona, Michigan, Colorado, Florida, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, and New York. The ACLU spent $20 million in the 2020 election cycle. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican running for U.S. Senate, will skip the Republican National Convention next month in Milwaukee. He also skipped the 2016 and 2020 conventions, but his announcement about missing Milwaukee came after he angered some party leaders and President Trump when he urged voters to, quote, respect the verdict of a New York jury just before that jury found Trump guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. Trump's campaign manager said the comment ended Hogan's campaign, and Republican National Party co-chair Laura Trump said that pro-abortion Hogan doesn't deserve the respect of Republicans. A federal judge has permanently blocked some of the laws North Carolina enacted to regulate the drugs used in chemical abortions. U.S. District Judge Catherine Eagles ruled that the state cannot require that the pills are prescribed only by doctors and only given to patients in person, and the state cannot require a follow-up appointment after the abortion. The Federal Food and Drug Administration has deemed the requirements in the North Carolina law unnecessary, and the judge concurred. Eagles upheld several of the restrictions that were being challenged, including an in-person examination with ultrasound before a mother is sold the pills. A ruling expected any day from the U.S. Supreme Court on the way the deadly drug mifepristone may be prescribed could impact Eagles' ruling in the North Carolina case. In a related development, Republicans in Congress, including Florida Senator Marco Rubio and Oklahoma Representative Josh Burkeen and others, have written to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency to ask about its plans to ensure the safety of U.S. waterways now that chemical abortions are discharging harmful chemicals into the environment. The full impact of mifepristone has never been sufficiently studied, the letter said. When the FDA approved the drug in 2000, it relied on a 1996 environmental assessment that failed to consider that human fetal remains and the drug's active metabolites would be making their way into wastewater systems across the U.S. Any studies that have been conducted in the past should be repeated and updated to reflect the fact that the drug is far more prevalent today than it was 3 decades ago. Chemical abortion now accounts for about 63% of all abortions in the United States. The American people deserve to know the negative effects caused by chemical abortion drugs, said the letter, signed by Rubio, Burkeen, and 9 other Republicans. The Texas Supreme Court has rejected a challenge to the state's law protecting most babies from abortion, ruling against a group of women who claim that medical exceptions to the law are so vague that they were turned away for abortions. The court ruled that the state law does not require that a woman's death or serious impairment be imminent when being evaluated by a doctor for an abortion. Under the law in Texas, doctors who perform abortions risk life in prison, fines of up to $100,000, and revocation of their state medical licenses. Southwest Airlines was back in federal court this week, seeking to reverse an $800,000 award it was ordered to pay a flight attendant who was fired for her pro-life beliefs. A 3-judge panel of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments Monday in the case involving flight attendant Charlene Carter and Facebook posts she published criticizing an airline union leader for attending a pro-abortion march. The airline said her post violated company rules that require civility in the workplace. Carter contends the airline violated federal law shielding employees from discrimination based on their religion. The Oklahoma State Department of Health on Friday petitioned the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals to bar the federal government from requiring the state to provide referrals for abortions in order to receive family planning funds. Oklahoma has been receiving federal Title X money since 1971, providing state residents with access to family planning clinics, adolescent services, and infertility treatments. But when Roe was overturned and Oklahoma enacted a law protecting most babies from abortion, the state was told it would not receive its $4.5 million from Title X. The state sued the federal government, but its motion for a preliminary injunction was denied in a district court, sending the state to appeal to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. A ruling could come as early as July. And finally, the last of 9 pro-life activists convicted of violating federal law during a 2020 protest inside a D.C. abortion mill has been sentenced. 75-year-old Paulette Harlow was sentenced to 25 months in prison. Her co-defendants earlier were given sentences ranging from 21 to 57 months. The only defendant to plead guilty received 10 months behind bars. After the sentencing, federal district court judge Colleen Kolar-Cortelli made a joke about Harlow's husband's concern that his wife would die in prison because she has several serious health issues. The judge said she hopes Harlow would, quote, make an effort to remain alive because that's a tenet of her religion. And that's abortion in the news. Nevada is a universal vote-by-mail state, with ballots mailed to every voter registered in the state, whether or not the voter has requested one. Election law stipulates that voters must live at the address listed on their registration. But in a new video, the Public Interest Legal Foundation visited addresses in Washoe County, where voters have registered and found themselves at casinos, bars, vacant lots, police stations, and many other places where voters clearly do not reside. Let's watch some of the video.
I'm Lauren Biss. I'm here in Nevada documenting for election officials commercial addresses where people do not live, and mail ballots may be going to these addresses in the upcoming 2024 elections. Is Kevin Plinser here? In Nevada, by the state law, you're required to be registered where you actually live, where you sleep, not where you work, not at a P.O. box. So we're trying to get election officials to enforce the law. Hi. My name's Lauren. I'm looking for Michael Clark and Michael Woodford.
I don't know.
Okay, they don't live here.
No, no one lives here.
Okay, they're registered to vote here, and I'm just trying to make sure their ballot gets to the right place. So, but you don't know them.
This would be their mailing. If they use this would be their mailing address.
If you have a police, fire, or medical emergency, hang up and dial 911. Please listen carefully as our options have changed. To be connected to dispatch, please stay on the line.
This is Lauren. I'm just calling looking for Joseph Razzo, R-A-Z-O. If you could call me back, I'm just trying to figure out if he lives at this Washburn police department in North Vegas. Thank you. Bye. Hi, I'm looking for John O'Connor.
He's not in the office.
Does he live at this physical location?
No idea.
Hi. I'm Lauren. I was looking for Ronald or William Phelps.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so they don't live here.
At the bar?
Yeah. No. Okay, this is the address we had for them, so I just wanted to make sure.
Oh God, yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't even recognize the name.
Some of the addresses on the voter roll here include 7-Elevens, strip clubs, vacant lots, Stephen Bronstein, bars, casinos. Look, Nevada election officials are clearly failing to investigate and fix errors relating to commercial addresses on the voter roll. And that's why we're drawing attention to this issue, so election officials will see this evidence that they can't refute and start to take action to fix and clean the voter roll.
Public Interest Legal has gone to court to force elections officials in Washoe County to investigate the situation and to clean up the voter rolls. Here's a statement Lauren Bowman-Biss sent me. She's the Director of Communications and Engagement and the woman who we saw on the video. Nevada's voter rolls are filled with strip clubs, casinos, bars, fast food restaurants, and vacant lots. We have taken legal action to force Nevada election officials to investigate these addresses. If election officials don't take action to investigate and fix errors in the voter roll before November, these addresses will automatically be sent ballots. The 2022 election for U.S. Senate was decided by just 8,000 votes in favor of Democratic incumbent Catherine Cortez Masto over Republican challenger Adam Laxalt. That year, according to the Nevada Secretary of State, 95,556 ballots were sent to undeliverable or bad addresses. This year, incumbent Jackie Rosen, a Democrat, will defend her seat against a Republican challenger to be determined in a June 11th primary. In the presidential race, a New York Times Siena College poll last month found former President Donald Trump leading Joe Biden by 12 points. Thank you so much for joining me on Pro-Life Primetime News, produced at Priests for Life headquarters in Titusville, Florida. If you like this show, please consider making a donation to prolifegift.org. These donations help fund all of our work here at Priests for Life, which enables us to continue educating, equipping, and activating God's people to end abortion. For all your pro-life news updates during the week, please follow us on X at Pro-Life News Show, and please make sure to tune into our other shows like Just Ask Janet and Praying for America. Go to endabortion.tv for the schedule. I'm Leslie Palma. Remember, life is the only choice.